Hey Flosstube, it's Lisa Smith, Kimber Stitcher. Today is January 85th. January, the longest month of the year, feels like. Actually, it's the middle. I think it might be the 14th or the 15th. I'm not sure which day it is. It's Saturday. Welcome to my channel. This is a channel about cross stitch and needle arts and all the good things. As you can see, I like to sew also, although I find myself not having enough time in the day to do all the things I want to do, which I'm sure y'all can relate to. This is my take 2 of my video. I started working on it. I started filming and then, or videoing, and my oldest son came over because he and my husband are going to pick up a mini excavator that my husband bought. It makes me feel pretty good about my haul. Anyway, so they're going to pick that up tomorrow, and they're doing things today. So it was good to see my son, chatted with him, and then I decided I just going to restart this video. I had run out of storage and I had to move things around, delete things, and so this is take 2. So today I'm going to talk about the projects that I've been working on that are part of my January through April focus. I had 10 projects identified, 5 blondes and 5 brunettes. If you've been to my channel before, that's just simply blondes are lighter color palettes and brunettes are darker color palettes. And what I like about that is that I can go back and forth and sort of keep my interest by looking at a couple different color ways when I'm stitching. Sometimes though, like I do what I want. Sometimes I end up just stitching on something until I finish it, or stitching it for a long period of time. I kind of was going back and forth week to week for a while, but I always mix it up, right? And sometimes I completely abandon my plans. I really thought that I was going to try to finish 2 projects in January. Of the 10, I finished one at the end of December, and I showed that in my last video. That was Love One Another out of the Blackbird Designs book for your friend. I think that's out of print now. I'm not sure though, but I think it's out of print. And so I got one of my 10 done already. I thought, oh, I'm going to just bust through these. No, I'm going to show you why in a minute. But I've also been sewing. I have project bags I'm going to post for sale tomorrow on my Instagram page. I'll just splash some of those to show you guys. There's just one of these. This is really cute. There is this cute fabric, and I'll show you the inside of this too. I love this interior fabric. Really cute. Love those. Several of those also. So sort of some winter fabrics. Plaids, snowmen. Really cute. I'm going to sew some more today for the sale tomorrow. And then this, I love this fabric. The hot cocoa fabric. Really cute too. Polka dots on the inside. And then some, I call it the Charles Wysocki fabric. I did an Instagram poll and said, would you guys still buy this, or do you think this is over already? And then people were like, heck, yes, we would buy this. So those are not sewn yet. This is the interior fabric. I'm going to be working on that later today. So that's sort of what I've been working on. I've been sewing. I've been trying to get all the things done. And then, some juggling between work and crafting and family things and holidays, and I am enjoying January, but it does feel like it's the longest month of the year for sure. Okay, so let me show you some WIPs. Enough rambling. So of the 10, this is the first one I worked on after I finished Love One Another. This is Leeds House Sampler by Rosewood Manor. I think the Sunshine Stitchers have a whole month of Rosewood Manor planned of stitching 1 month this year. I'm not sure which month that is, but if I recall watching one of their videos, they have that on deck. But I just love this. This is stitched in a sulky color palette. Let me see if I can find the box of colors in here. Yes, sulky petites. I bought this. This came out at Market. This pattern and the sulky threads you could purchase them as well. So here is where I am. When I showed you this last time, I had done part of this. I think I had done some of this. And since then, I have finished the center medallion, this quadrant down here and start at the bottom and work my way across. Now, I kind of think I might change the font on this. This is more of a backstitch font, but I might just leave it. I haven't decided yet. I do love the colors on this. I can't recall what fabric this is. It might be, it looks like it might be platinum, but I'm not sure. The sulky threads on a 40 count are a little bit of a plumper stitch, but I love it. Love, love, love it. Full, beautiful coverage. Such a fun project to work on. And that was the first one that I worked on. So let me tuck that in this bag so I don't lose it. These videos, when you're done, it does look like a complete mess. The next one that I worked on, where is it? Is it in this one? Oh, I think it's this one. That's in the Fractor bag. It's fun. I lost my charm on the scissor pull, but that's all right. This is Frisian Sampler, Cross Stitch Sampler #1 by Modern Folk Embroidery. It's a PDF download. You can tell my printer was running out of ink when I bought it. I don't know that when I showed this before, some folks couldn't find it on Jacob's website, but he has such great service. I would email him if you can't find it, or you could just put it in the search bar. Frisian is Frisian, and he can, I would try that first, and then if you don't see it, maybe email him and see if it's available. I'm stitching this on 36 count. Vintage Fawn by Lakeside Linens. And actually I'm just gonna show you this half. Since the last time I showed this, I have stitched this all the way across to the end. And this side is a mirror image on this side. So everything you see here is going to be the same on this side. It's been long enough ago that I stitched this that it's not going to be a big deal. I'm not one to, I don't love stitching the same motif over and over. I did also, this was wrong. Like I stitched here and then I worked my way down and then realized that I was off by 2 stitches. So I picked this out and I realized this little bird that I had counted off of was also off. So I fixed that, stitched this motif, the peacock all the way to the end. Then I went up here and started these letters. And let me tell you how much I love these letters. They are a blast to stitch. Now they're very futzy though, meaning I could probably stitch about 2 a night. I wouldn't probably stitch more than that because you're really stitching the letter, you're outlining the letter, and then you put these little bubbles on the letter, and inside the bubbles are little squares. So it reminds me of when you used to doodle on like your peachy, and I know my audience, I know you know what a peachy is, the majority of you, the 3 of you who don't, DM me and I'll explain what it is. But when you would draw like block letters and then echo the block letters and draw things off, it's like Zentangle, really. A lot of fun to stitch. It's a much bigger sampler than I thought it would be, but it has been so much fun to stitch. Now this is on 36 count Vintage Fawn, and I'm stitching it with Silks for You. If you go to their website, it's their like Christmas red color. That red really, really plays well on that fabric. So that is Frisian Sampler. Oh, I got my hair cut too. I'm sure y'all noticed, right? Did a little bit of a shorter cut, a little bit different, pulled some volume out. My hair's thick and coarse. So when she cuts my hair, it looks like a dead animal on the floor because there's so much hair that gets cut off. And you can really see my natural gray highlights with this cut. Kind of makes me laugh. All right, the next one is, let me see which is in here. Midsummer Garden by Vintage Tulip. And it is on an XJU Designs fabric. I bought this through the XJU Designs website. Here's the pattern. It was a kit, It was her fabric and her threads. Don't you love that? Those are my thread ends when I get done with it. These are the threads through XG Designs. She dyes these. They're gorgeous, gorgeous threads. And I think the kit was with 32 count, and I messaged her and said, could I have 40 count instead? And she's like, of course, no problem. Super accommodating. And I love it. This has been a lot of fun to stitch on. I do need a bigger board to put my projects on. My apologies, but since we last talked about this, I stitched this. I stitched all the way to the end on the border. I stitched this, and I've stitched this motif here. I think that's all I've done on this one, but boy, it for sure felt like I could cruise it on it. And so this will be a focus for January. This one and Frisian Sampler. I was going to work on Rose Arbor. I haven't worked on that one yet. That's a Mirabilia. But Frisian Sampler is taking me longer than I thought it would. And so I think it's between that one and this one that I'll be working on this month. A lot of fun. This is a beautiful sort of a mottled grayish. It's hard to tell on the video, but it's sort of a gray. And I'm not I don't stitch a lot of purple, but I really like the purple on this one. It's just a lot of fun to stitch. All right. One moment. And so I have two more that I stitched on. I also worked on Newcastle Bouquet. I have been a stitching fool. Worked on Newcastle Bouquet by Teresa Kogut, and this is so beautiful. These colors, that red, oh, I just love it. This is with a silk conversion from the attic, and I'm stitching it on 46 count straw. This is the piece that I cut off the top of Sarah Chapel and then shorted myself on Sarah Chapel. We rebounded from that, but I was a little bit irritated with myself. Okay, so here's where I am. Sorry about the hanging thread here. I worked a little bit on the border, and I really did all of this. Now this is a flower here, and I found out that I was off one or two, I think one stitch, and I was able to fix it. This comes over like a tendril off of a bouquet, so it's going to be pretty much off the rest of this, but this for the rest of it's going to be correct. So I love working on this one. I can't wait to get back to it. I could spend a lot of time stitching on this one. There is a lot more stitches than you think there might be on this, but a lot of fun. I did add a color to the silk conversion. I added Gloriana Elizabethan green, which was a little bit darker green, and I'm very pleased with that. That was a good addition to the color palette. So looking forward to working on that one. Oops, my little scissor pull came off. I got it in a Christmas bag. That's all right. The last one I worked on is Live on Little by Paulette from Plum Street. Here is the picture, and here's the Live on Little. This was a retreat piece from May of last year at the Farm Girl Gatherings retreat. I would expect this is going to come out this year, but I'm not Paulette, so I can't speak on her behalf. A lot of these are DMC. There are some overdyes. This is a very stitch heavy project. I'm actually going to just hold this one up because it's much wider than the board that I have. I finished the blue around the lobster since the last time I showed this. I finished the sand and the grass all the way across on the bottom here. So my next plan of attack is to finish there's a whale and another lobster and some fish in here. I'm going to do that next. Then I'm going to work the border up on both sides. And I am going to stitch the sails of the boat next. So that's sort of what I've got in mind for this one. I don't plan to have this one done by the end of April, but I do want to work pretty diligently on it because there is so much stitching. If if you see, I probably will have, I'll try and get this part done first. I'll do the sailboat next, and then I probably will work up this direction for a while. I also put in, I don't know if you can see it, there's a diamond, like a quilt diamond here that's in a gold color. But I have the same thing that I made that's in a smaller scale that'll go in the middle of this blue section because I really wanted to break that up a little bit, and that's what I have on mine. Plus, have fun personalizing your stitch projects. There's no rule that says you can't change things, right? And the designers, for the most part, are pretty supportive of that. There might be a few who don't like it, but oh well, you know. So those are the projects that I worked on this time. And I got a squeaky chair here. So I'd also like to talk a little bit about organization. So occasionally I get questions about how do you organize your cross stitch? How do you organize your charts, your WIPs? What's your stitching space look like? And probably the number one question I get is how do you stitch? Like, what is your method? What do you use? And so I would say that if I'm working on a project on, say, 28 or 32 count that has a lot of block stitching, I might do the sewing method. And especially if it's a small piece. The small pieces I use the sewing method usually. If it's a big sampler, a lot of times I just like to not have all that fabric in my hand, so I will put it on my 11 by 17 Q-snap. And I put it on a lap stand. And so I have some video clips that I shot around the house. My stitching chair is in the living room where I sit next to my husband. And then I have a craft room that has all the other things. I'll show you where I stitch, where my WIPs are, where my cross stitch charts are, where my linen is, where my thread lives, and maybe a couple of other storage solutions that I use. Now, I'm always changing this because it depends on if your stash is getting bigger or smaller as to how you might organize it. So what I do works for me, it might not work for you. I'm going to insert a series of clips right here. All right, this is where I stitch. This is my spot. This is my husband's spot. And you can see where I put all my stitching accoutrement there, 12 pairs of readers, what have you. This is the stand and frame that I use. So I use a 11 by 17 Q-snap. Let me see if I can get this focused again. There we go. An 11 by 17 Q-snap, and on big projects where I can. And then this is the stand. Bonnie Hope, her husband, makes these. She is on Facebook. I'll link her below. She's in the cross stitch stands and frames Facebook group. This unscrews so you can take these lateral arms off, and then this unscrews down here so you can take the vertical arms off, and then this just lays flat. It fits in a check bag at the airport. It does not fit in a carry-on, but this is just what I use. I like it because I can stitch from the top and then I can end my threads in the back. That's how I manage it. And so that's what I use. Sorry, that does fit on there just right. Also, I'm 5'10". This fits me well. I think for a very petite person, you would want a smaller one. Another question I have is, how do I organize my project bags? So I have just this little bookshelf, and it used to be in my craft room, but it's in the front room now because it fits here. All my WIPs are in here, all of them. And you can organize by date you started or genre. I just like to put my project bags in color order. So that's how I handle mine. I think some people put them in baskets, or they put it just next to them in their stitching chair, but this is where I store mine. So also, when it comes to DMC, there is a growing trend to put them on floss drops, which is great. I still have mine on bobbins because I've had them on bobbins my whole stitching life. And I just have them right next to me in my stitching chair.
It doesn't bother me to wind them. They're mostly wound. I have almost a whole set, not quite. You know, I start a project and I think I have all of them and I don't. But then they just sit here between the chairs and they're easy to find then. So it works for me. This is my project today, besides making a video, putting all the Christmas stuff away. When it comes to cross-stitch organization, this is how I have it in my craft room. I have bins, and I had moved these from an area where the tags stood up right before, but they don't now, so they're kind of off to the side. By designer, those are the full-size charts here, half-size charts here, some kits here. These are Blackbird, Mirabilia kits, kits that have come from retreats, more kits from retreats, Blackbird quilt books. I'm not sure what that is. That's sort of how I have all of my patterns organized for cross stitch. And it's pretty easy. I like this because you can get right into it and see. These are little odds and ends kits and things that don't really fit elsewhere. So I do have some additional storage for patterns. This is primarily quilt patterns. There are a few kits for cross stitch, some cross stitch. These are older, like my Paula Vaughn patterns that I can't bear to part with, but probably will never stitch again. They're in magazine holders, which works well, I think, for cross stitch patterns because they're usually, the leaflet's usually, 3 or 4 pages. So there's some of the leisure art books from the past, where they would have them by theme, like Christmas, etc. And then painting books. And I also bought this tool chest from, I think it was from Costco, but you can get them at, I think, Harbor Freight. They work great for, I got all my extra DMCs in here. I think I've got some Kreinik in here. I've got beads and needles. This is pretty handy. And baskets for extra stuff. And then I have this shadow box that I really like. I forgot about that. I'm showing you guys this. I don't know if you've ever seen it before or not. Just has doodads in it. What it really needs is to be dusted, but ain't nobody got time for that. This is a new acquisition, and I bought this off of Facebook Marketplace. All of my fabric for my linen will be in here, and my wool kits are going to be in here. Right now, wool kits are in this corner cabinet, and it's hard to find things. It's like, stuff falls in the back there. So they will be in these bottom 2 drawers. I've started putting things in here. These knobs are going to come off. I'm going to paint this, actually. I'll open it up so you can see what it looks like. I've started putting some linen in here. My overdyed linens that are not really sampler linens are on the bottom. They're shoved in there pretty tight. I'm going to probably have to loosen those up a little bit, but you can see this will house like my 28 and 32 count will go probably either this drawer or the next drawer, and then I'll have 36 and 40 count in the other drawer. So that is sort of how my linen and wool kits are going to be organized. Sorry, it's not wanting to focus very well. So this is how I store threads. I usually store silks on the hanger until I use them, and then I continue to store them on the hanger sometimes, but a lot of times I put them on floss away bags. So those are wools. These are, I'll put the likes together so I have weeks, and then I put them in colorways, and I've got Gentle Arts Sampler. I've got Silks for You and Classic Colorworks. So that's how I store these. This is on the inside wall of my craft room, and my craft room is on the north side of the house. So it does not get direct sunlight, and even the overhead lighting is off most of the time. So it minimizes the risk of fading. I think it moved around enough that they don't get dusty. So I hope that helped you. I hope that gave you some ideas, and I'm interested to see more videos on craft room organization. There are some out there. I do enjoy watching those a lot because, I don't know, it just feeds my soul. So I'll talk a little bit next about some haul that I had, and I had toyed with starting something. I just haven't because I really want to complete some of the projects that I have the first part of this year. I see that happening for
probably through July, focusing on my WIPs. I'm not sure if I'll have many new starts, if any. But we'll see what market brings us, right? Because then it could be just throwing everything out the window. I picked this up. I'm not sure if I showed this, but this is the La Rose Rouge French General line. They just came out with another one that has quite a few blues in it. It's gorgeous. This is La Rouge. I have, as you can see, I have a lot of French General. I'm not sure if you can see it here. I've been collecting it for years. I love it. I can't wait to sew it into quilts. That's my ultimate plan. But you can see she just definitely has that kind of a dusty pinks, reds, multicolors. She uses taupes, grays, blues. And I just really love this. I bought it from a quilt store. I also picked up a little sweet kit from, what was it kit? I would call it a trim package maybe, from Michelle from Farm Girl Dry Goods. She had these on her site. So if you follow, I don't know, Insta stories, or you just check her shop out, she has this vintagey trim, and it came in a little package with these little hearts, felt hearts. Oops, I have a pink one I just dropped. So there's a pink one that goes with that. And on the outside had these two little charms on it. I just thought it was adorable. I have some of this trim in different colors. I did not have the red though. So I bought the red. And also what came in the mail, Jane Charlotte Wynn, Threads of History Club, and I get the 40 count. This is Scarlet House, and I love this. I really, really like this a lot. Yes, love those trees. Love the symmetry. And it just has the alphabet and her year. It doesn't have like a saying on it. So that came in the mail. Also, I picked up from Ymir at Almond M&M's. She had a little sampler, what would you call it? A thread sampler kit. And I picked up the one that's sort of the pinks and purples. And they also come with these tiny spools of thread. I was dying when I saw these. I'm like, these are so cute. I hate to even use them because they're so adorable, but it's beautiful silk. She does a great job of dyeing. I'll link her shop below, but that's Ymir from Almond M&M's. I think she's out of New York, somewhere out that way. I saw this on Amazon. I was in so last weekend I went up to an area that has antiques, and I was kind of looking around, and I ended up not buying anything, which was great. And on the way home, I got a flat tire. I was about an hour away. I happened to see it because I grabbed some lunch on my way home, and I came out of the restaurant and I saw the flat, and I was like, but I was able to limp it to the next gas station, and I saw the nail that was in the tire, and I filled up. You can only use a credit card now, and you get like 5 minutes worth of air for $1.50. I used it for 15 seconds. Put air in my tire, went to the local tire center, and the gal goes, "It's a 4-hour wait." And I was like, I did not have any cross stitch with me. I was like, okay. No way to get it earlier. Lots of people had flats. They had hit potholes and what have you, because that's what happens in the winter. So I said, well, I'll just wait. And then I got on Google Maps and I found a quilt store that was about a half an hour walk away. So I went to that quilt store, and it was a big quilt store. About a third of their inventory is batiks. And I was like, man, I have never seen so many batiks in my entire life. But I thought about this book because I picked this up off of Amazon, and you could do this. It wouldn't have to be batiks. Like, you could do this in numerous different colorways. You could do this as a black and white quilt, black, white, and red. But I really liked the options here and thought this was a fun book. So I picked that up. I also picked up, I have, I think, 3 of these Dimensions Gold Christmas kits. I love this one with the sleigh. and that church in the background. So these are full coverage. They come with Ada, a smaller Ada, but I started one of the kits and the Ada was really not very good. It was stiff, and I probably will do it on a smaller count than what was provided, and I probably will do it on an even weave, maybe just like a Lugana, but I think they use a light blue, so I might have to see if I can dye it. Yeah, so there's that. Also in the mail from Kitten Stitcher, I bought The Hands Across the Sea, Maria Vincenza Larica. I love that one. I love that Brenda and Laura just did the designer spotlight on Hands Across the Sea. It was really fun to see what all the patterns they have. And there's one that's I've been thinking about in the last year of starting. I think they showed it was Eliza Hills. I think is Eliza. I don't know. It's all green. It's one that I have had in mind to start this year. Really like the layout of this one. And also from Kitten Stitcher, a lot of people have received this, and can't get it out of my bag. Hold on. Red Letter Day. Oh my lands! I thought that this book, not only does it have beautiful samplers, but I really enjoyed the content of it. I love the way she's broke it out. And Teresa talks about this in her last video at Kitten Stitcher. She talks about samplers, how she reproduces. There's a lot of good stuff in here. What is wabi sabi? Anyway, I really like this. Good information, a nice book, worth the money. And then I looked at this designer, and she has been showing her on Instagram her designs that are Peppermint Cottage, Gingerbread Cottage. She's making a series. It's Pansy Patch Manor. Pansy Patch Manor. So I went to her website and I picked up this one, and I thought, oh, that is sweet. It's her spring. What is this called? Love, Spring at Pansy Patch Manor. So there's that one. That's cute. And this other one, I've seen several people stitch this on Instagram. This is Peace Winter at Pansy Patch Manor. That one's really cute too. Liked those. I think did I show this already? Macintosh sampler, the Jane Harris sampler from 1884 Stitchery. I was having an issue on my end with not being able to complete the order, and I'd sent something to McKenna and asked her a question, and man, she has fantastic service. She is Johnny on the spot. It was in the evening that I was having an issue, and the next day she was right on and told me, oh, it hasn't come through yet. So I really appreciate her service. This is gorgeous. Don't be surprised if I start that one this year. Oh, and I think I mentioned in a video that she was coming soon, Merrily Beams. So she is reproducing the Merrily Beams charts, which is great. I have Prize Your Liberty. I got it from a fellow stitcher. I was really grateful. I have had a lot of people ask if I would share the pattern once I'm done. I have barely started, but it is on my list of pieces to stitch in May, June, and July. May, June, and July. But you're going to be able to get that from McKenna. She has that. She's shown on her social media that one will be available. So that's great. Also influenced by Jan. Jan Hicks Creates. That Jan. She gets me in trouble, Jan does. She showed this, and she's just like, hey, look at this. And the world fell apart. People just went over and blew up Crochet A Go-Go's site, I think, and everybody bought it. So she has a stitch along with this, and I, of course, went over and bought this immediately. It's an Advent. Look at that little sled at the bottom. Sleigh with Santa. Are you not dying? So many people are stitching this. It's beautiful. Very sweet. Lovely little piece. And then there was another Santa one I almost bought, but instead I bought this Halloween one. Because look at this cat and this mouse sitting on pumpkins while they're learning from the witch how to do spells. It says, tonight witches spell lessons. So stinking cute. And then I also picked up this one. I don't know. It's a lavender pillow. I don't know how to say that name, but I love it. That one probably all the stitching. And then I also want to show this. I bought this in January or December and I forgot to show it, but let me tell you, this is one of the most beautiful things. And I saw it and I knew I had to have it. This is Terry at the Old Needle Shop. She showed this on her Instagram page and then I went to her shop and it was available and I could not buy it fast enough. So I think this is one of the strawberries from Deck the Halls by Blackbird Designs. I've stitched it. She put a little bird, that, what do you call that? Laminated picture. And then she has these 2 pin keeps that just beautifully sit against this. The fabric on the back, you can hang it on the wall, and it has cording on the side. This is so beautifully made. Talk about talent. What a beautiful finished product. And I was so happy to have this. So thank you, Terry. It was beautifully made. All right, so one other project that I'm thinking about starting, but it might be later this year, is I pulled this out. I was really thinking this might be my January 1st start, but it's Christmas and I do not know if y'all know who the designer is. This was I got this off of Etsy and I think the designer is Russian. So I could not tell you the name, but this is called Christmas Botanicals. I bought this a few years ago off of Etsy. Wouldn't be surprised if this made it into a start maybe mid-year. I love it. I might do some color changes on it. We'll see when I pull the threads what it looks like, but definitely will probably be a darker fabric than that. And I really like it. Really like the design elements in that one, the motifs. So last thing I want to share is there is a quilt along through Facebook with 2 designers, Bonnie Sullivan, and her website is allthroughthenight.net, allthroughthenight.net, and I'll link it below. She is a quilter and applique. She does cross stitch as well, but I think she's primarily known as a quilter. And then a friend of hers, Dawn, I think it's Dawn Heese, Heese. Let me look and see. Yep, Dawn Heese and Bonnie Sullivan. It's called Made by Hand. And it's a block of the month. It's applique. They've done it in 2 ways. One is a cotton applique and the other is wool. I bought the kit. I pre-ordered the kit. But every month you can join a Facebook group. It's $10 a month. You get the pattern. And there will be other exclusive patterns too that they'll release. But it is, so far, it's going to be fun. I can't wait to do it. It's gorgeous. I'll flash a picture of what the projects look like. So you can see how beautiful those are. It's not too late to sign up for the Facebook group. I think you have until the end of the month. And yeah, it's going to be fantastic. I cannot wait. So that is it for now. I hope you have a great rest of your January, all 365 days. No, just kidding. I hope that you have a great January, the remaining 2 weeks. It's not too cold where you are. And I think that's it. I look forward to working on my projects I have planned for this month. And I do want to start a couple smalls that are March. They're pretty quick projects, I think, that are for March. They're little smalls. And we'll see what else happens before next time. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again at the end of the month or beginning of February. Take care.